Semantic mapping strategy, the way to facilitate students' reading comprehension. Reading comprehension is one of the four skills in language development. It involves language, interests, perceptions, concept, development, and the whole experience and background knowledge brought by the readers. Hudson, 2007, defines reading comprehension skill as the ability to construct the context and knowledge to make sense of what is read. Some efforts are required to master the reading skills. According to Noonan, 1998, reading needs identification and also interpretation processes which require the reader's knowledge about the language structure used in the text and their knowledge about the topic which is given. However, there are several issues in reading comprehensions faced by the teacher, because many students have difficulties in understanding what actually the content of the text from the reading activity. It is because of many uncommon vocabularies for students that they don't know the meaning is. So, some of the students need to translate it one by one to get the meaning, and the other may not catch the point well. As that problems, there will be a techniques that can be a way to facilitate students' reading comprehension, called by semantic mapping strategy. Semantic mapping strategy is a technique developed by Johnson and Pearson in 1978 and had its roots in cognitive psychology. According to Sinatra and Piso 1992, they state that semantic mapping is an active reading process that stimulates the lazy readers to think more deeply about the ideas in the text, because they must figure out the relationships between ideas and the hierarchy of their organizations. Also, there are some previous studies about this semantic mapping strategy. The first one is Wiwit Pratiwi, 2016. The research is the influence of using semantic mapping on the students' reading comprehension. She outlined in her research that semantic mapping strategy can be an alternative choice from reading comprehension improvement. Second, Adelia Puspita, 2012. Improving reading comprehension through semantic mapping strategy for Indonesian senior high school students. This research investigates how semantic mapping strategy can improve students' reading comprehension. And the last is Yuman Kasim and Sri Wahyuni 2016. With implementation of semantic mapping strategy for teaching reading comprehension. This focus study of this research are in what types of reading comprehension subskills can get better results by using semantic mapping strategy, and what are the students' responses toward the implementation of semantic mapping strategy in reading classroom. Then, the difference of those previous study with this research is, this research focused on how the implementation of semantic mapping strategy to facilitate students' reading comprehension and the impacts of the using semantic mapping strategy for the 10th grade students of senior high school. Then, in this research, the researcher will conduct this research in qualitative designed to outline the result of this research. To specify the research design of this research, we'll use qualitative descriptive because this method is suitable for use to describe the explanation of the teacher while they are implementing semantic mapping strategy in reading activity for their students, and how the impact of using semantic mapping strategy to facilitate students' reading comprehension. This research will be conducted in 10th grade students of MA Nurul Ikhlas with the explanation of the teacher to answer the research question of this research. The data and source of data. The first one is observation. The researcher will observe how to cut the condition of the students in the several classrooms which applying semantic mapping strategy in teaching and learning activity. It consists of students habitual in the classroom, the atmosphere of the classroom, and the other category that related to this research. And the second is interview. The researcher will interview the teacher who implementing semantic mapping in her or his class about how the implementation of the using semantic mapping strategy and the impacts of it. The data collection techniques. The data about the improvement of the students' reading comprehension are going to be obtained by doing observation in the class and then conducting interviews after the class meetings and administering the reading comprehension test by the teacher to know how far the reading comprehension of the students. The instrument of this research for collecting the data in this study were non-test instrument. Non-test instrument because this research will use the observation guide and interview guide for collecting the data. Then the administering the reading comprehension test just collected by the teacher to measure the comprehension of the students in reading. The data analysis techniques. The data will be collected in the form of qualitative data. To analyze the qualitative data, the researcher will do some steps. In the first step is transcribing the data. After the researcher collected the data, the researcher transcribes the data to review the initial and looking for both patterns, ideas of the answer from the question. The next step is decoding the data, where the researchers code the data into more specific patterns and identify qualitatively. The third step is analyzing the data. It is comparing the data in which the researcher compared the data to see whether they said the same thing or whether there were contradictions. Then, the fourth step is building meanings and interpretations. To sense the data, the researcher analyzed the data several times to pose questions, rethink the connections, and develop explanation of the situations. And then the last step is reporting the finding. In this step, the researcher described the context of the research, outlined the finding, and interpret how the finding is related to the context and suggest how the project could lead to other areas for research in the next future. So that's all for the explanation of this research. Hopefully it will be beneficial for the research in the next or further researcher. Thank you for watching this video.